What's going on, everybody? My name is Bendy, and this is Disney Heroes.
Hercules! Behave yourself.
Oh, look at this. Look how cute he is. Oh, he's strong, like his dad.
So, if you couldn't guess by that intro, today we're going to be talking about Zeus. Zeus is the electrifying god himself and the father of Hercules. He uses his lightning to completely dominate Disney heroes, as being one of the best heroes in the whole game alongside Shigo, who we covered a little while back if you want to check that one out. But I am going to be explaining exactly why Zeus is so good and why you should be using him. In doing so, I will be going through his skills, friend discs, his battle badge, his mods, who he's good with, who he's good against, and of course, how to counter him. Now, if you excuse me, I'm just gonna go put a shirt on. I'm not really sure what this was, but anyways, here's the clip.
My boy, my little Hercules. Hold on, kiddo, what's your hurry? After all these years, is this the kind of hello you give your father?
Father?
Didn't know you had a famous father, did you? Surprise!
So, without further ado, I think we should just get right on into it because I am very, very excited to get this one going for you guys. As always, we are going to begin with his white skill, Lightning Storm.
Now, what's your old man work?
Zeus's anger boils over, and he strikes the entire enemy team with lightning, dealing quite a lot of fantastic damage, stunning enemies for 5 seconds, and removing 250 energy from each enemy. Not only does this do a lot of damage, but keep in mind that it also removes energy. This prevents your enemy from being able to use their white skill quite as often, and this is a huge part of why he is so difficult to take down oftentimes if you can't deal with him right off the bat. His green skill, Thunderbolt Trap. Zeus puts the closest enemy in a lightning cage, stunning them for 3 seconds and dealing a lot of damage to them and nearby enemies. Zeus then steals 100 energy from the caged enemy. The stun has a chance to fail. His blue skill, Cloud Care.
Now, let's see here. We'll take, yes, a little Cirrus, and, a touch of Nimble Stratus, and a dash of Cumulus. His name is Pegasus, and he's all yours, son.
Zeus sends out a small cloud, cleansing himself, healing himself for about 31 million HP, at least mine does, and increasing his attack and movement speed by 100%. Now, if you don't know what cleansing is, it basically just means that he removes any debuff that he has on him at the time that he uses this skill. So this could be a disable, any speed reduction, or just any stat reduction in general that has been applied to Zeus from the enemy. So it's just a nice way to clear the way for himself so that he goes back to full power pretty much. And also the attack and movement speed is nice. Pretty good skill. Mostly just a nice way to like bring him back into the fight, you know? His purple skill, Lightning Bolt Bounce. Zeus's basic attacks send out chain lightning that arcs from the targeted enemy to the nearest 2 enemies. The chain lightning deals about 13.5 million fantastic damage to each enemy it hits, and every 3 basic attacks the chain lightning will stun targeted enemies for 2 seconds, and the stun has a chance to fail. All in all, this is a kind of a cool purple skill. Not really the best part of his kit. It is nice that basically this means that his basic attacks always hit 3 enemies at once instead of just 1, so I guess that's kind of cool. 13 million fantastic damage isn't a crazy amount, so all in all, not really the best part of his kit, but it's still pretty cool. His red skill, Ruler of the Sky.
strike me down, Zeus. You don't have the ball.
Lightning Storm, which is his white skill, now saps enemies hit for 3 seconds. Now, sap basically just reduces the amount of energy that you gain from all sources by 50%. The next part is when Zeus hits enemies with Lightning Bolt Bounce 6 times, he becomes charged, stealing 50 energy from all enemies every second for 7 seconds. Both the sap and the energy steal have a chance to fail, so this really just helps to hammer down you not being able to get your white skill off when you're facing Zeus. And this is why it feels like you can never really make any good progress when you're facing a Zeus. Between his white skill as well as the red skill and his green skill too, all of this has some kind of energy stealing or sap involved. And it just makes it really, really annoying to face Zeus pretty much, unless you have some kind of thing that's going to help against energy steal and stuff like that, such as like Energize, or something that prevents your team from being sapped, or energy stolen, or something like that. And then in addition, he also gets skill power, max HP, and fantastic damage to Lightning Bolt Bounce. Definitely something that gets a little bit overlooked as far as why Zeus is so annoying to face. Everyone kind of talks about the white skill and everything like that, just dealing tons and tons of damage, but the energy steal is definitely a huge part of why Zeus is so annoying to face. So those are Zeus's skills. Let's take a look over at his friend discs. So we're going to start with the Kevin Flynn disc, which is called Game On. Over on the level up side, it basically just gives him a little bit of armor and reality, as well as making it so that Thunderbolt Trap, his green skill, deals more fantastic damage. And then over on the star side, enemies hit by Thunderbolt Trap send Chain Lightning to their 2 closest allies, and also Chain Lightning now reduces tenacity and evasion by 100% for 4 seconds. Now this is the friend disc that not very many people use all that much because it just gets totally overshadowed by the other one, which we'll get through in just a second. So this basically just makes it so that his green skill is kind of similar to his purple skill, where it sends out Chain Lightning to other enemies. And also it's cool that tenacity and evasion gets reduced. This basically makes it so that they, 1, can't dodge any attacks for 4 seconds, and also they can't reduce the length of debuffs from their tenacity stat or any other tenacity that they get from allies. This is a pretty good friend disc. I honestly thought this was the better friend disc at first when I first powered up Zeus, but it totally gets overshadowed by the Hades friend disc over here called Note for Disaster. This is the one that everybody uses, and this is a huge reason why Zeus is the strongest hero in Disney Heroes. So, over on the level up side, he's going to give himself skill power, max HP, and Lightning Storm now deals a lot more fantastic damage, which is his white skill. And then the most important part, over on the star side, Zeus uses his Lightning Storm white skill at the beginning of each wave. This is the part that everybody talks about all the time when they talk about Zeus, and is why Zeus is so insanely good, because he gives you 0 opportunity to get any kind of advantage in the fight basically by doing this, because he steals your energy right off the bat. So this makes it so that any hero that has energy right away, like Tron or Jesse or anything like that, that have energy at the beginning of the fight, or anybody that had Energize like Jim or something like that, this prevents them from being able to boost their team or boost themselves to use their white skill in the beginning of the wave. And it just deals tons and tons of damage right off the bat. So unless you have some kind of defense against this, you're pretty much toast instantly when you're facing a Zeus. So this is a huge, huge reason why Zeus is so good, and this is definitely the disc that you should probably be using if you're going to use Zeus in any capacity. So we've talked about his skills and friend disc. Let's talk about his battle badge a little bit. When sap is applied to 5 enemies, Zeus gains skill power and basic damage per damage roll hero on his team. And then if you enhance the battle badge on Zeus, he's going to gain invincibility for 3 seconds from when sap is applied to 5 enemies. Now this is a pretty decent battle badge, and for enhancing, it's not too bad. 3 seconds of invincibility is nice, but I don't think it's super duper game changing, so I'd say this one's kind of more on the fence of which one you'd want to enhance. A lot of times I don't think the battle badges are really even all that worth it to enhance, so that's why I like to mention that. So, what mods should we have on Zeus?
How sentimental. You know, I haven't been this choked up since I got a hunk of moussaka caught in my throat. Huh?
Huh. Zeus is definitely one of the more versatile mod heroes in this game. You could really throw almost any mod on Zeus and you'd be fine. For skills, you could really go with any skill mod you want. The green skill is just going to increase the amount of damage that the lightning cage does, so that's what I've done here. I gave that a plus 20 on this. Blue one is going to increase the amount of heals that he has, which I don't think is super duper crazy, so this is personally the one that I did not go with. And then the purple skill is going to increase the amount of damage that his chain lightning basic attack does, which is also pretty nice. Blue skill is decent. If you want him to heal some more, go for it, but all in all, I would say that the green or purple skill is probably the best options as far as mods for Zeus goes, so that's what I suggest. You could also go with Fantastic Crit like I have here. Zeus does have pretty decent Fantastic Crit, not the best in the world, but if you want to increase that a little bit in order to give yourself more of an advantage for Fantastic Crits, go for it. You could, I guess, go with normal crit on Zeus, but I don't really recommend it because all of Zeus's attacks do fantastic damage anyways, except for, I guess, his basic attack, but for the most part, he doesn't really do that much normal damage, so I wouldn't really recommend doing normal crit. You can also do shields, which are decent. I don't really like shield mods. I don't think they're that great. Armor reality, you can kind of go with either one. His reality is a little bit higher, so I would recommend going with reality over armor personally, because I like to increase the one that they're better at. Speed is also pretty damn good on Zeus. Actually, speed on Zeus is very good, especially because there's so many Zeuses out there, so you could go Zeus versus Zeus, and if you have a speed boost on him, this means that he is going to get his beginning of the wave white skill off before the other Zeus, which is extremely useful. This gives you the energy advantage basically in the game from the get-go. So if you want to give Zeus a speed boost, definitely a pretty good one to have on him as well. So we have gone through his skills, friend disc, battle badge, and mods. Let's talk about who you should have Zeus paired with as teammates.
Bendy, you finally made it. How are things in the underworld?
Well, they're just fine. You know, a little dark, a little gloomy, and as always, hey, full of dead people. What are you gonna do?
So Zeus is kind of just one of those heroes that does his own thing in the game. He doesn't really need too much assistance in order to just totally wreck the enemy team, so you could kind of put him in almost any team really, but stun teams and fantastic teams are definitely just generally pretty good ones to have with him, just because Zeus does have stun himself. Somebody like Ron or Darkwing Duck or something like that that has a lot of stun. Madam Mim or Ian, there's a lot of just general fantastic damage dealing heroes as well as stun heroes, so you can kind of take your pick on that. Madhatter is another fantastic teammate to have with Zeus, mainly because of the weird, I'll go into it a little bit more when we get to the counters section of this video, but Madhatter, Mary Sanderson, and Zeus have this weird triangle with each other where they all kind of counter each other and work with and against each other quite well. So Mary is one of the best counters for Zeus that's in the game right now. Madhatter is a great way to counter Mary Sanderson. So therefore, having Madhatter with Zeus is a great way to counter Marys that are going to be facing Zeus. You could also have Mary herself with Zeus, especially if you're facing Zeus versus Zeus, because Mary is going to prevent the other Zeus from getting his white skill off right at the beginning of the fight. You could also go with other energy steal or sap, such as with Go-Go, Dr. Draken, Carl, Fozzie, Pocahontas, or Mary, like we've already said. Bolt does quite a bit of energy removal. Heroes like that have energy steal are just going to pair really great with Zeus's energy steal to really prevent the enemy from getting their white skills off, if you're really worried about that especially. And that's pretty much all I had for the good with section. Hello, it's Bendy from the future. I just wanted to add in Chippendale is something else that is pretty damn good to pair with Zeus. I'm gonna give him the stars while I'm here. Mainly because of this blue skill, where they dive bomb the enemy at the beginning of the wave, deal lots of damage, they energize their team for 5 seconds, giving them 50 energy per basic attack, in combination with the Basal Friend Disc, Ranger Plane, which is the blue skill that I just talked about, has a 100% chance to stun and sap for the first 3 seconds of the wave at max stars. So this combo is going to make it so that you are stunning the enemy at the beginning of the wave, stealing their energy, sapping them, dealing lots of damage, and you'll have Zeus doing his lightning lots of damage all at once in the beginning of the wave. Plus, if you pair this with, say, like Jim or any other energized hero, this is going to make it so that it completely shuts down the enemy team, does just tons and tons of damage, and allows your team to use their white skills extremely quickly before your enemy even has an opportunity to do anything else to you. So this is a really powerful combo that I just found out about because of the May tier list where Chippendale moved up to the top ranks. So this is another great combo with Zeus. So let's move on to who Zeus is good against. Zeus is pretty much good against anything. 3, 4, 5. There really isn't a whole lot that Zeus can't just completely dominate. Pretty much as long as the enemy doesn't have Mary or Madhatter or some kind of reflect like Ian or Draken, you can feel pretty safe to go with Zeus against almost anything really. So just keep an eye out for Mary, Madhatter. Other than that, you're gonna be fine using Zeus. So that's really all I had as far as the good against section. I know it's a bit of a cop-out to say that, but Zeus is seriously just so dominant in the game that, I mean, I guess you could say armor-heavy heroes that don't have very much reality would also be pretty good. So like Shank, for example, Zeus would be good against. But really, Zeus is just going to dominate almost any team that you face as long as they don't have the things that we're going to be going through in the counter section right about now. How do you counter Zeus?
My lord and lady, the Titans have escaped, and they're practically at our gates!
Sound the alarm! Launch an immediate counterattack! Go! Go!
Gone, babe.
Zeus is probably one of the trickiest heroes in Disney Heroes to counter, but there's definitely a few ways to do it. As I've already hinted to, Mary is the best counter for Zeus in the game.
Hey, shut up, you little bitch! Yeah, shut up, you little bitch!
So we're going to start with her. So Mary, the reason that she is the best counter for Zeus is with the Lock, Shock, and Barrel disc. At the beginning of each wave, Mary hexes enemies for 6 seconds. Enemies that activate this hex by using their white skill are stunned for 6 seconds. Mary gains 250 energy whenever an enemy activates a hex from any source. So Mary hexes Zeus right at the beginning of the wave before he's able to get his chain lightning off. As a result, Zeus gets stunned and can't get his beginning of the wave momentum off. Now, you might be asking yourself, Bendy, Madam Mim also has a hex that gets applied in the beginning of the wave. Why doesn't she work as well as Mary? Well, it all comes down to basically just the wording of the friend disc. So, if we go over to Madam Mim's Magicka disc, her friend disc says, if enemies begin a wave with more than 250 energy, they are hexed for 10 seconds and all of their stacks of party are removed. And if they attempt to use their white skill while hexed, they are stunned for 10 seconds. So while yes, this is a hex that gets applied in the beginning of the wave, this one is dependent on them using their white skill in the traditional manner and also them having at least 250 energy at the beginning of the wave. When it comes to Zeus's white skill, if we look at the Hades disc, Zeus uses his lightning storm at the beginning of the wave. This is Zeus's white skill, however, he doesn't use it in the traditional manner. It just goes off. It doesn't build any energy in order to use this. It just goes off in the beginning of the wave. Mary works against Zeus because Zeus's white skill at the beginning of the wave just goes off. It doesn't require energy. So that is the big difference in why Mary works against Zeus a lot better than Mim. However, Mim is a pretty good counter for Zeus regardless, because say if Zeus has somebody with him that energizes, such as Chippendale or Jim or something like that, and he uses his white skill very quickly again for a second time, this will activate Mim's friend disc and hexes him for a second time potentially, if you in theory had Mary and Mim together on one team going against Zeus. So Mary is effective for that initial white skill going off from Zeus, but Mim would be effective for the second use of Zeus's white skill, if that makes any sense. I know it's a bit confusing, but I hope that I cleared that up for you guys so that you guys kind of understand how that all works. Anytime that I see a Zeus on the enemy team, I always put Mary in the line, no matter what, unless she is off duty or something in the war, in which case I will probably go with the backup plan of Madhatter. Like I said, Madhatter, Mary, and Zeus have this weird, I guess you could say it's a love triangle that they have going on, where they all kind of just counter each other in like a weird way. So Madhatter is another great way to counter Zeus, and this is because even though Madhatter is not going to prevent Zeus's white skill from going off, it is going to prevent his team from getting the energy steal because of Madhatter's red skill, which makes allies immune to all debuffs for the first 4 seconds. If you have some kind of way to defend against Zeus's beginning of the wave white skill, this is a great way to make it so that you don't lose momentum and instead can put up a much better offense going against the Zeus. So that is why Madhatter is a good counter. So basically, Mary should be your first choice when facing a Zeus, and then Madhatter, or both. Both are also very good. Also, Zeus, you should pair Mary and Madhatter with him as teammates. So those are the big 2 counters for Zeus. Something else that's really going to help against Zeus is going to be Energize. Since Zeus steals a lot of energy from your teammates, having Energize is really going to help, such as Jim, Raya, or Esmeralda, or Animal, or
Chip and Dale.
Something like that, that energizes either themselves or their teammates. This is just going to help make it so that you're able to get your white skills off a little bit easier against the Zeus, even though it's not going to be like 100% the most effective. Another reason that Jim in specifically, as well as Angel, are really good against Zeus is because of the revive that they have. This is just going to help, especially in the beginning of the fight. If a teammate goes down against Zeus, Jim and Angel both have revives that I've gone through in previous hero overviews that are going to prevent your teammates from dying against Zeus's beginning of the wave fight. So this is a nice little way to make it so that you don't completely get fucked over by Zeus in the fight. Hardy is another pretty effective way of dealing with Zeus, mainly because it's going to prevent your team from getting their energy stolen, as well as getting sapped and stunned by Zeus. So there is that as well. That's not the best thing in the world, but it definitely will help, especially the Tron one, because Tron has Hardy right in the beginning of the wave. So Hardy, pretty good. Not the best in the world, but it'll definitely help. The next thing that I think is probably one of the more effective out there is going to be Reflect. Reflect, as everybody probably knows, is one of the most dominant buffs in Disney heroes. There's not very many heroes that have it, but those that do, definitely some of the best in the game. Ian, Darkwing Duck, Ron, Dr. Draken, and Ham are the big reflectors in the game. Dr. Draken in particular is a very good counter for Zeus because in the beginning of the wave with his Gizmo Duck disc, Dr. Draken grants Reflect to the ally with the least HP that lasts 5 seconds. Since this Reflect goes off in the beginning of the wave, this basically just makes it so that Zeus is going to kill himself with his own beginning of the wave white skill. Ian also accomplishes pretty much the same thing, since with his purple skill he gives himself Reflect, or whoever's standing behind him. So this basically just is going to make it so that Zeus kills himself as well. This is a kind of risky play though. You could still lose teammates from Zeus's white skill even though he kills himself, because it's only going to get reflected from the heroes that actually have Reflect on them. However, this is a great way to take Zeus out right away, especially if you have the right teammates with him like Jim or Angel or something like that. Reflect is an extremely good way to help against Zeus. And the last thing that somebody mentioned but is extremely niche and might not really work, but I have seen people attempt to use it before, is going to be Chippendale. Chippendales, and the last thing that I have is going to be something that is probably fairly niche as a Zeus counter. However, it could definitely work, and it's going to be Chippendale. And a Chippendale, with their blue skill Ranger Plane, at the beginning of each wave, they dive bomb their enemies, dealing a lot of normal damage and energizing teammates, giving them 50 bonus energy per basic attack for the first 5 seconds of the wave. And then in combination with their Basil Friend disc, this also gives Ranger Plane a 100% chance to stun and sap enemies for the first 3 seconds. This has a 100% chance at max stars, which I don't have, but this combination with each other basically will, 1, stun Zeus at the beginning of the wave, and 2, also, sap him and deal lots of damage, and will also energize Chippendale's team so that you don't get as much energy stolen from Zeus and can still potentially get your white skills off. Now, this is fairly niche and might not work sometimes, especially if the Zeus that you're facing has speed boost mods on him. You kind of really want the Chippendale to get their blue skill off before Zeus gets his white skill off, so I guess you can probably put speed boost mods on Chippendale and it'll probably help against the Zeus. But the main thing is that you're going to be stunning Zeus right off the bat, as well as energizing your team so that you don't get your energy stolen from him quite as much. Pretty niche. It could work though. Like I said, Zeus is one of the most difficult heroes to counter in Disney Heroes. Mary is your number one. If you don't have Mary, I recommend powering her up just to counter Zeus. But also Mary is extremely good in herself. She does a lot of damage, and the Hex not only applies to Zeus, it applies to everybody else as well. Reflect is another great counter, but other than that, a lot of it is just going to be reviving yourself and hope for the best. And you want to try and either energize your team or stop Zeus from getting your team sapped and energy stolen. That's going to be your big factor in if you can win against the Zeus. So I hope all of that made sense, and I hope this helped you guys with how to deal with Zeus in Disney Heroes. I know he's one of the trickiest heroes in the game, and he is certainly, he seriously is probably the best hero in Disney Heroes. And thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna get out of here, so peace.
Fine work, my boy. You've done it. You're a true hero.
You were willing to give your life to rescue this young woman.
For a true hero isn't measured by the size of his strength, but by the strength of his heart. Now at last, my son, you can come home.
3, 4, 5. Pokemon. How did Pooh go down?
何お前は